So I would first like to welcome all of you girls to middle school. I am going to be your native English teacher for this semester. I'm sad that we can't really meet each other face to face in the classroom. Usually I like to have my first class with new students be a little bit more interactive so that you can learn more about me and I can learn about your interests. But we're still going to do the best that we can. So my name is Sarah. You can call me Sarah or Sarah. It's a little bit confusing, but actually in America, many times Sarah or Sarah, it's the same name, just pronounced differently. There are a lot of different American accents, especially culturally, since there's so many cultures in America. So I grew up being called both Sarah and Sarah, right? So the spelling is the same, but the pronunciation might be different. So whichever way is easiest for you to say it, you may use either. So what should you be doing for this lesson? I'm mostly going to be telling you a little bit about me and then also have you practice your own introduction. So you should be listening, write down any words that you don't know. You can always play back the video if you want or pause it. I'm trying not to speak too fast and to speak very clearly, but if you do need to go back and listen again, that's perfectly fine, right? It's good practice for listening. You can also write down that word you don't know, always look it up, right? And then you can listen a second time if you want to, right? It's not necessary, but it could be a little bit helpful. So what am I going to be talking about? Just a couple of things that I have up here. Where am I from? What places have I traveled to in the world? A little bit about my family, and then class rules, which aren't so much rules as just reminders. And then how to practice your English at home. Even though I'm talking to you now, there are other ways that you can practice without the classroom. And then how to practice your own introduction. So the first is where am I from? Now I already mentioned America, so you can't really guess because I think it'd be a little bit easy, but I am from the United States of America. Now it's quite a large country, so specifically I am from this part, right? The state of Wisconsin, so the northwest area of America, and I am specifically from a small village called Whitefish Bay. It's nearest the city of Milwaukee. Now Milwaukee is the biggest city in Wisconsin, which is not very big, right? Milwaukee's population, right, as you can see up here, is about 550,000 people. New York City has over 8 million people. So if you've heard of New York City before, it is much, much larger than the city where I am from. So I'm from a very rural area where there's still lots of people, but it's not a huge popular area to grow up. So a couple facts about Wisconsin, where I grew up. It gets as cold as Moscow, Russia in the wintertime. So the winter in Korea for me was not very cold this year because I'm used to the temperatures being so cold that it's dangerous for you to go outside some days. There's also a lot of dairy farms. So Wisconsin's major products are milk and cheese. So that's kind of what Wisconsin is known for. If you go to America, there are many shops where you can purchase specialty cheeses, and we export a lot of that to the rest of the United States. So Wisconsin is known, kind of a nickname, as the cheese state of America. So again, Milwaukee, I have a picture of the city there. It's not very big, and it is Wisconsin's biggest city. The state is located next to 2 of the 5 Great Lakes, so there's a lot of water around and many beaches. Although I'm sure you can imagine those beaches get closed down during the winter time because they get frozen over. And then Milwaukee also has a famous baseball stadium called Miller Park. And the top of it can open and close, so it's a very famous area, and Milwaukee's very big for baseball. So there are over 20 types of American accents. You might not be able to tell the difference between all of them, but that's okay, right? So long as you can understand me, you can probably recognize that my accent is an American one. But many Americans, when I talk to them, they know that my accent is a Wisconsin accent specifically. So many times if I talk to other Americans, they'll be able to guess that I'm from Wisconsin. You might not be able to hear that difference, but just so you're aware, if you go to America or meet other Americans, or have another American teacher, they might speak differently than I do, just because we grew up in different places. So where have I been in the world aside from South Korea and America? So I've visited a couple other countries. England and Wales, I went to when I was 16 on a trip with my school. I've been to Jamaica and then France earlier this past year. In 2019, I visited France, and I've also been to Italy. So along with South Korea, I've been with 6 new countries outside of the United States. So who's in my family, really quickly? So I have quite a large family, I think, compared to most families these days. So I do have the pictures of my parents. Then I have one older sister, her name is Emily. Then there's me, my brother Ben and his girlfriend Jessie. They just had a baby named Azalea. And then I have another brother named Simon and a younger sister whose name is Margaret, but we affectionately have nicknamed her Maggie. So some words that you should probably already know, right? I have 2 parents, a mom and a dad, and then 2 sisters, Emily and Maggie, and 2 brothers. So these are family words that you're familiar with. You've probably learned them in English before when you were in elementary school. So words that you should know, right? Mom, dad, or mother and father, brother, sister, son, daughter, and family. And you should probably also know an aunt or an uncle, niece, and nephew, right? So if my brother has a daughter, she is my niece, and I am her aunt. So she would probably refer to me as Aunt Sarah, and I would just call her by her name. So these might be new vocabulary words depending on what you learned in elementary school. Some more facts about me. So usually at this time I would let the students ask, have you ask whatever questions of me that you want. I'm pretty open about answering these questions, and past classes have enjoyed it. Unfortunately, we can't really do that, so I just gave some answers to the most common questions that students usually ask me. So my hair is not dyed. This is my normal hair color. That's a very common question, but this is my natural hair color. I do like Korean food, and I've had plenty of it now that I've been here for half of a year. This is my first time visiting Korea, but I have been here for about 6 to 7 months now. So I've gotten used to things. It has been a while. So it's not as if I just came here. I've been here for, as of August, it will be a year. I am 24 years old, international age, but by Korean age, I would be 25. And I'm not dating anyone. A lot of students like to ask if I have a boyfriend. I don't. I also was born in Michigan, which is the state with the blue circle around it, but I grew up in Wisconsin, 6 hours away. So Americans like to be very particular about what state you're from, because it's sort of like having 50 different tiny countries make up one big country. So I like to tell people that I am both from the state of Michigan and Wisconsin. There does tend to be a difference about that. I do wear both glasses and contact lenses, right? Today I'm wearing contact lenses. On occasion I wear my glasses, and usually students are a little bit startled when they see me wear glasses. I promise I'm the same person, I'm just wearing something a little bit different. And I did finish university at a very small university in a small town, not unlike Yongyang, within 3 years. So just a couple of rules. These aren't really classroom rules, but I just want to use them as reminders for you, right? So as always, please do your best to work hard. I know that it's a little bit difficult to always focus or want to spend all of your time on this work because you're at home, you're taking your classes online, right? But I do still want you to do your best to practice English. Now, it has likely been several months since you've spoken or used any language other than Korean. So don't worry if you're not used to speaking English or maybe you're not comfortable with it. The great news is that since you're at home and you're in a comfortable environment, you can be practicing your English without there being any consequences, right? If you make mistakes, nobody's going to know about it except for the people who are in your household. So do your best to practice your English so that when you do get to come back to school and have class with me in person, maybe you'll feel a little more comfortable using English with me in the classroom. So again, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Okay, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Using mistakes is actually really important when you're learning a language, particularly with English because pronunciation is different. There are many different cognates and words and things that you don't know yet. So unless you make that mistake, you might not be able to learn and move on. So don't be afraid. Mistakes can be good. Don't worry about being perfect because you're still learning the language. If you do have any questions from me, I've included my email here at the bottom. It's my last name, then a dot, then my first name, and 96, which is the year that I was born. So nelson.sarah96, and that's at gmail.com. So please feel free to email me if you have any questions or need to run something by me in English, right? If you have English questions or questions about me and my experience here, you can ask me anything. I promise I'll be very good about answering those questions. And as always, do try to stay healthy and safe. I know that we've all been on quarantine from the coronavirus for quite some time now, and we're getting very tired of it, but do still wash your hands and wear your masks and stay home and away from any large areas. I want all the students to be coming back to school when you can and to be healthy. So a couple of ways to practice your English at home. Again, we will still be having our online classes, but these are some extra practices. So again, listen and respond to my lectures. You can pause the video, listen to my pronunciation, and try to copy it, particularly with certain words or letters that you're not used to hearing, because Korean, right, very different language than English. You might have to practice your pronunciation a little. Do follow along with the activities. I'll try to do my best to have interactive activities, even though we're not in the same place. So do your best to maybe answer the questions that I'm posing to you. And as always, you can pause the video, answer that question, and then resume. Now, something that I've introduced to the other classes, and if you would like, you too can use it, is this free app called Duolingo. You can see the mascot is our little green owl there. It's actually a very popular app in America. Americans like to learn new languages as hobbies, and this is a very popular language learning application. So you can download it on your phone or onto your computer. And the first thing that the app will do is give you a test. Now, it's not really a graded or difficult test, it's just to know how good your English is so that it can tailor or fit your application experience to how good your English is and teach you new things dependent on what you do know and what you still have to learn. It's a little bit like playing multiple mini games where if you get all the answers correct, right, it will unlock a new practice situation, or if you get it incorrect, you might need a little bit more practice. But it is a lot of fun, and it's maybe a little bit of an easier way to practice your English instead of all of the book work and practice work. A few more ways. Do use your English if you can with your friends, right? Just so you can get used to speaking it again and using it, since it has been a while. Practice your conversation, right? I know many students will say hello to me if they see me out and about in town. You can always say hello to me or just use a little bit of greeting English with your friends. Again, recording yourself. I know you guys all have cell phones. You can record yourself speaking in English and listen back to it. And if you do have time, try watching a movie in English with English subtitles. I know you've probably all seen movies in English with Korean subtitles, but it will actually be very helpful, and you'll find that it will help you learn English a little bit faster if you can watch a movie, particularly a movie that maybe you're already familiar with and that you already enjoy, and then just watch it with those English subtitles so that you can try to practice reading that English and listening to it at the same time. You will even be able to, pause that movie and look up things you don't know, or practice repeating after the different characters. So that's a good way to listen to more conversational English. Book work for learning English is great, but a lot of what I'm going to be trying to get you to do is to practice your speaking. So the last thing I want to do with you is just to remind you how to practice your own introduction. I've today given you my introduction. I've told you some things about myself, right? My name is Sarah, I have 4 siblings, I have a niece from America. So I've put together a little bit of an introduction that you can use in case you are introducing yourself to somebody new and practicing your English. So, hello, I am, and then you would put your name, right? So I would say, hello, I am Sarah. But that second part I can't use because it says, I'm from Korea, right? It's nice to meet you. I would say, it's nice to meet you, I'm from the United States. Just a clarification, many people would say I'm from America. However, many times people from Mexico or Canada they don't like it when the United States is referred to as America because they think that it's a little bit insulting. So if you're going to be referencing the United States of America, it's better to reference it as the US or the USA. If you just call it America, it might be insulting to some other people who live in the Western world because they feel as if they're being forgotten about. So just a clarification, when I'm traveling abroad, I usually say I'm from the United States. Now what else can you say, right? You've said your name, it's nice to meet you, I'm from Korea. That's great, but you could also say, right, you're in the 1st grade at Yongnam Girls Middle School. You can say if you have any brothers or sisters, and you can say how old you are. Now it is important to remember, right, in America, it's considered impolite to ask somebody's age, particularly a woman's age. It's considered a very great insult to ask a woman how old she is, to the point where it's kind of a joke in America, that if somebody asks how old you are and you're a woman, you know that that person is a little bit of a rude person. Now, if you do visit America and you meet somebody who's your own age, who you think might be in middle school or high school, it's perfectly fine for you to ask, oh, how old are you, right? It's only if they're an adult or somebody at a higher position than you. Then it would not be appropriate for you to ask that person's age. Now in Korean, you have 2 different forms of Korean, right? At least 2. You have your formal and informal. Now America isn't quite as strict with that when it comes to language. It's less about formal verb choice and more about word choice. So certain phrases or terms that you wouldn't use with somebody who's at a higher position than you, but you could use with friends or family members. This is one of those examples, right? If that person is in school with you or around your own age, somebody you think you could be friends with, you can always ask how old they are. But if they're your boss or a parent's friend or somebody older than you should not ask that question, okay? So do try to use this model. Try to practice your own introductions. Speak out loud as much as you want to formulate your own introduction. And if you want to, you can even add more, right? You can always say what your name is, what grade you're in, how old you are, and maybe some of your interests, what the things are that you'd like, right? So this is where we're going to stop for today, but next time, since we've already introduced me and a little bit of what we'll be doing here, we'll move on with some more of the practices that you'll be using to get to know English better. So I will see you next time. Bye!